As someone who literally just has this laptop and a cheap mic and trying my best to make a change, if I can motivate people to go out and volunteer locally instead of donating to politicians, that's a giant win for me. So I'm glad that y'all out there in the streets. The number one goal of the left right now in the post-capitalist, the late-stage capitalism hellhole that we live right now, where you are expected to take starvation wages. You are expected to sacrifice your life um, in time that you normally would spend for your family, making some rich asshole money. The 40-day work week is dead. All the worker rights that our ancestors fought for, it's dead. And it was a systematic destruction by trickle down economics. It was a systematic destruction by the neoliberals teaming up with the Reagan conservatives. And they destroyed union and worker rights. Bill Clinton in the 90s played a very giant part of that. Bill Clinton destroyed labor in the United States like no Republican or conservative ever could during the wave of Reaganomics. And things haven't changed that much. We still have two parties that refuse to give us health care in the middle of a pandemic. We have two parties that is more focused on fueling this culture war nonsense, divisiveness. This is the same thing that Tosi is very guilty of doing as well. We're going to talk about her very soon. So let's look at this update story. This came out about 2 days ago. Boom. Nabisco worker strike enters second month as company and BCTGM union plot attacks on pay and healthcare. So let's dive into this. And I have another story here. And I'm just now kind of learning about this stuff as well. Like, there's kind of some union nonsense going on here. And I kind of want to give you guys takes on this. So on September 8th, the most recent contract offer by Mondelez International, Nabisco parent company, to the bakery, confectionary, what I'm reading right here, that what BCTGM stand for. This union, the Bakery Confederacy, Tobacco Workers and Grain Millers International Union. So the recent contract offer expired. In-person talks are set to resume between Mondelez and the union on Monday. However, the so-called negotiations will not be between the two adversaries. See, this is what I'm looking at today, and this does not make sense to me. I'm talking to you guys. My stream, Socialist MMA, on my YouTube channel, my Twitch, much more interactive. So I'm asking you guys, what is this? However, the so-called negotiations will not be between two adversaries. Rather, they will be strategy sessions between the company and its union partners over how to secure the company's demands for major concessions. So this is in line with BCTGM. That's a mouthful, that union name. They recently sold out the Frito-Lay strike, doing the same thing they're doing here. You guys see what I'm talking about here? So you have union partners that are working with the company in order to make sure the company's demands are met. What? You mean the company that is literally increasing the out-of-pocket cost for the healthcare benefits? The same company that is demanding workers to work 12-hour days? The union partners side with them. This is how desperate and how horrific of a situation that we are in right now in this late-stage capitalist hellhole. AO said unions in red states are no good. That's the problem, man. A lot of the union leaders are capitalists, and they work on behalf of... let's say they're very class loyal, and that's what I'm seeing here. Because I'm gonna show you guys... This is what I'm talking about with the Frito-Lay betrayal. And let me know if I'm getting this correct, guys. Indiana PepsiCo worker strike continues as union shuts down the Frito-Lay worker strike in Kansas. Remember when this was a giant story, the Frito-Lay strike? Not a lot of people are covering this. As someone who's class conscious and care about the workers, I'm not going to keep my eye off these things. But check this out. More than 100 PepsiCo drivers, merchandisers, and delivery workers in Munster, Indiana has been on strike for more than 2 weeks against the company's demand for sharp increases in their out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, forced overtime, and stagnant pay. Stagnant pay despite the massive profit increase from PepsiCo. I'm gonna show you guys that very soon. But the strike is, but this is the part that's caught my eye. The strike is continuing as bakery, confectionary, I'll butcher that, tobacco workers and grain. Well, that's a union. That union name is a mouthful. So this union, BCTGM, shuts down the strikes by hundreds of Frito-Lay workers in Topeka, Kansas. How are we supposed to organize a general strike with the union leaders who are class loyal on behalf of the ruling class? This is insanity. This is insanity. See, this is the revenue part I'm talking about. While PepsiCo made over $70 billion in net revenue in 2020, up from $39 billion in 2007, it is demanding a significant increase in out-of-pocket healthcare expenses from $14 a week to over $80 a week by 2025. It's just the ruling class and the capitalists stealing our wealth, stealing our surplus value. If you have a company that is driven by labor, the way PepsiCo and the factories and food developers they rely on, when you have your revenue increase this much by $39 billion in about 15 years, you should see a massive benefit from the workers because of this. You should see the workers' quality of life increase tremendously because they are responsible for this increase in net revenue. But it's actually the exact opposite. Their pay is stagnant. They pay more in healthcare, and because of inflation, they probably lost wages. Isn't that crazy how that works? Capitalism is fraudulent, guys. QKR said, I've always been extremely suspicious of unions. Sorry, I think they're only good in theory and not in practice. We got a giant problem with American unions. When you look at Scandinavian countries, which are deeply problematic in many ways, because a lot of people think they have a good version of capitalism. They do not have a good version of capitalism. They have a better version of capitalism than we do, but their capitalism still requires their exploitation of the global South. But they don't really have a minimum wage in those countries because their unions are very strong and they are working on behalf of the workers. The unions in this country, so not only have our union membership plummeted, I think it's only like 5% of workers are in unions now. But the union leaders always work on behalf of the company leaders, which means they will be loyal to management, which destroys the entire point of the union. That's why, and I think that's by design. That's by design. Because as QKR says, unions are good in theory, but if you have a shitty union that's pretty much just siphoning wealth from its workers through fees, but they don't work on their behalf. Sorry, 9%, Austin. Thank you for the correction. 9% union leader participation, if that's what you're referring to. But a lot of times, I think these unions are shitting the bed on purpose to turn people off unions because people will pay a lot of union dues and see that their unions not really fight for them. So it's a win-win for them. So let's dive more to this article. Austin Jones said black women have been the most unionized demographic in the last few years. That's very interesting. I wonder how statistically significant that is, though. You know, black women are the highest educated demographic by percentage. Shows another reason why capitalism is a joke, because black women tend to do the work financially out of any group. So a lot of black people think they can read a book and study their way out of racism. It's not going to happen. I covered a story months ago how you had this extremely qualified um, lady who had like 5 PhDs. She had long time worker experience, but she was passed for a promotion for by a lesser educated white person who had no work experience. This kind of stuff they deal with all the time. Yeah, Deborah said the democracy here is fraudulent too. Yep. Everything in this country is fraudulent. Everything in our country is like our entire country is a failed system. Our entire country is a failed system. That's why I think the number one goal of the left right now should be in a nonstop. We should be nonstop organizing strikes. We should be taking our strikes. Taking our shots. The CIA left. The boutique left. This is the left that wants people to. They always advocate caution. They always say, you want to organize a general strike? Do you know how hard that is? What if it doesn't work? So let's build awareness. You start one action in one movement, and that can spiral into other movements. For example, I think I like the end the damn war rallies that was happening this past weekend. The turnout wasn't amazing, but if we keep organizing these actions, we only can spread awareness, and that's what we need to do against the working class. The ruling class. So the October 15th general strike most likely won't accomplish much. I'm gonna be honest, but we need to light the fire and get people thinking about striking, and I think that could be a good way for them to do that. That's why we are holding the General Strike Summit afterwards, the second week of November, because there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of education that need to be had on how you actually go about having a general strike, how you afford your rent, how we actually get this done. So that's what we're gonna do. Cause we gotta start somewhere, and we starting with education.